Hello everyone, again, my name's Alex Strizak. This is my MPA 510 Week 6 presentation, and we'll be looking at a federal organization and seeing if there's a possible increase in the scope that could happen or a possible decrease in the scope that could happen by using the founding documents to support it. So the organization I wanted to look at was the Environmental Protection Agency of the United States. So this is a federal organization responsible for researching environmental impacts, funding to improve environmental information. Just a quick background real quick, because I always find it so interesting. Now we're going to look if we should possibly move to the left here and decrease the amount of scope and coverage the EPA has on the United States, or if we should move to the right and increase the amount of scope and coverage it has in the United States. So let's look at if we should expand the scope and move it to the right. So things that would support this would be cooperative federalism. So the EPA is based off of cooperative federalism. It does not state that in the Constitution directly that the EPA should be funded by the federal government and be a part of the federal government. Instead, money is given by the states in the hopes that they'll get the money back. And it's under agreement. That's why it's called cooperative. And then there's also the idea of dual federalism. So dual federalism really came up when the founding of our country, the federal government was found to be possibly too weak. And so there was a statement of what powers the federal government should have and the state should have. And if you look in the context of what it said in the preamble of the Constitution, the federal government was responsible to provide for the common defense and promote the general welfare of its citizens. And I think the environment, and some perspectives do say the environment falls under that category. So the preamble of the Constitution and dual federalism kind of go hand in hand there in stating what responsibilities the federal government has towards its citizens. So based off the ideas of cooperative federalism, dual federalism, and the preamble of the Constitution, you could argue that the EPA does deserve to be funded the way it is, and we could actually add more. So now let's look at how we said to push it to the left and decreasing the scope of the EPA. If you look at Amendment 10, the 10th Amendment in the Constitution, it states that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by the states, it's reserved to go to the people in the states. So if it's not stated on here, then it's either the states or the people's power. It does not specifically ever state that the environment is the responsibility of the federal government. So you can see that these arrows have a skinnier one going towards the Capitol building for Congress, and it has a thicker one going to the states because there's more powers going to the states and the local government because of the idea that the closer and more local it's being run, the more efficient it's going to be. So in closing, from the references you saw before that were the reasons I was able to draw the ideas and conclusions from the other slides, it is a difficult debate because it relies the EPA relies fully on cooperative federalism, that states will give money to the federal government hoping to get it back. And the 10th Amendment does state that if it's not stated, then the power goes to the states or the people. And this balance of dual federalism is very difficult. And the idea that someone had told me at the grocery store, actually was the grocery store, was that if every state is like its own little laboratory, then you have more opportunity to grow versus if you have one giant laboratory for the whole country. But that same person did bring up the idea that we're not also dealing with just one state on its own as its own planet. Every state is a part of this country and shares a border with another part of a state, and so their environmental controls and care can affect the state next to it possibly. So it's a difficult debate to see if we should increase or decrease the scope.